Estamos online. Boa tarde, Brasil. Boa noite, Portugal. Estamos aqui com imenso prazer recebendo uma lenda, Jeff Dunn Mantas, Venom Inc. Welcome, Jeff. Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite, tudo bem?
Tudo certo.
Boa noite, tudo bem?
Tudo bem?
Perfect Português.
Boa noite, tudo bem.
Obrigado.
Seja bem-vindo, Miguel. Ivan é histórico, heavy culture, recebe uma lenda. A gente que, como diz, né, se criou miúdo ouvindo o Venom, sábados de tarde, né? Live at Hammersmith, Odeon. É com imenso prazer que a gente vai conversar com o Jeff. Miguel, fique à vontade, vamos conversando. Pessoal de casa, façam as perguntas. E começando.
Muito bem, boa noite a todos. É de facto um prazer enorme estar a falar com o Jeff. E para nós portugueses, dizer mantas, nós até brincamos com a situação, porque são as mantas. As nossas mantas são cobertores.
Todos nós brincamos disso.
I will say it in English in a few seconds.
Explica para ele. Ô, Miguel, explica para ele.
Não faz mal.
Não faz mal.
We have to be careful. We have to be careful speaking Portuguese because he understands Portuguese.
Oh, yeah.
Não pode fazer piada, então.
Não, nós fazemos piada porque ele sabe que mantas é portanto algo que nós utilizamos para nos cobrir ou para cobrir alguma coisa.
Aqui também.
Nem que seja para cobrir uma chavala. Bom, vamos para o inglês. Again, Jeff, it's a great pleasure to have you on Heavy Culture. And as I told you before, I'm very close to you when I go for the weekends to my mother-in-law's in Torres Novas. As we were saying that you visit Torres Novas quite often, and I'm sure you visited the castle. The history of Portugal is so, rich. And I start from asking you, Jeff, how much Portuguese can you speak in words, not just saying a little bit. I would like to hear some words in Portuguese.
Oh, wow.
I'll help you. Something like foda-se.
Oh.
Foda-se.
I was in our local cafe. We live in a very small village, and one evening I was in the cafe with my wife, and I had a galal.
Okay.
So I picked the glass from the bar, and we know the owner, Joao and Elena, who own the cafe, and the glass was really hot, and I went, "Fuck, that's hot." And Joao started to laugh, and he came over to me and he went, "No, foda-se, é muito quente, foda-se." So I didn't understand what he was saying at the time, so I went, "Foda-se, é muito quente," and the whole cafe was like, "Hey!" But one of the funniest things was, again, I mean, you know what the cafe culture is like in Portugal. It's the center of the village where everyone goes, and it's a great community spirit. And there was one night, one of the old guys was in there, Farina, who sadly just passed away, but really, really nice guy. And he was asking me about English, so he couldn't speak any English, so we were teaching him English, and it came around something like, I'm going home, and he said, "Oh, you vou para casa, eu vou para casa." I was like, "Yeah, eu vou para casa," okay. And then he said, "Inglese." I was like, I'm going home, yeah. And then because I'm from Geordie, in Geordie we say "am ganyem," right? It's the sort of dialect, "am ganyem," right? So anyway, fast forward to the end of the night, and Farina has had molto vino e aguardente, and he slams his glass down on the counter and goes, "I'm Ganyem," and just walks out. Perfect Geordie. You know, well, us as English people, we were like, brilliant. But I mean, I absolutely love this place. You know, we've been here around 6 years now, and I admit I should be speaking more Portuguese than I can. I can sort of get by a little, but the people, the country, it just everything about it. I feel more at home here than I ever have done.
And the weather. I'm sure you love the weather and food.
I love the food. Yes, I love the Portuguese food and the weather. I mean, we've just had. I mean, I'm sure you know as well, but we've just had the rainy season from hell. I mean, at this end, it was so wet for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was just rain, 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 and now we have the heat. You know, so it's been incredibly hot over the last few days. I think the lowest we've had here in our village has been around 34, 35. So it does get a little bit oppressive, and even when the locals are walking around going, "Muito calor, muito calor," you know, it's like, but then you know it's hot
usual,
when the Portuguese.
It's usual to feel that heat when you are living in the Portuguese interior. It's far from the sea, so it's very hard. I know because I go there often, and I when I was in the army, I was in near Entroncamento, is near you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy because the weather there is so hot and dry. It's you know, it's a good way to be a man, to become a man. When you go there and you have to suffer, it's suffer all the time.
The past few days has that even the atmosphere has felt so heavy, you know, and it's been difficult to breathe, you know, and I mean, especially, you know, with what happened to me 2 years ago.
We'll get there.
You know,
we'll get there.
Yeah. But even now I have a little trouble breathing, you know. But
the food is good, and I'm sure you are recovering as fast as you can from that stuff. But we'll be there soon. Going you know, again to the Portuguese place you choose to live. Can you say something about the village you are living in? The name of the village? I'm curious. I don't know if you want to speak about that, because we can do it personally, as we said before. But I would like to ask you something like, why choosing Tomar, being the Portuguese city of the Templars Order? Was that because of the historic value of the Portuguese history, or was a coincidence?
Really, Tomar, ending up close to Tomar, I have to admit, was a coincidence. But myself and my wife, we used to go on holiday to the Algarve. You know, we went to the same. We used to go to a little fishing village called Olastagua, which is in between. Yeah, it's in between Albufeira and Vilamora. It's very quiet, very peaceful, and we went to the same hotel every year, just a very small family-run hotel, and we basically fell in love with Portugal. And then, you know, all the children are grown up. They've got their own children, so, you know, we've got grandchildren, and we just made this decision. But let's do it. Let's go. But we also made the decision that if we are going to move to Portugal, let's move to real Portugal, not the tourist areas, you know, where we can go and have an English breakfast and we can hear English voices all the time. It's like, to my mind, there's no point in doing that. So we chose central Portugal, the Santarém area. And first off, when we moved here initially, we just literally packed the car. We drove from Newcastle to Portsmouth over to Santander, drove down through Spain, and we ended up in Ferreira do Zé.
Ferreira do Zézara.
Yeah, and we ended up there, and we were in a small village called Beko for about 6 months, and then we came to where we are now, which is just outside of Acicera.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
This now leads me to the next question I had for you. Telling you that you are truly a warrior that fought the hardest of the battles ever. I was shocked when I realized that you had a heart attack and truly passed away for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And the Portuguese health national system had the glory of resuscitating you. Better, resuscitating you. Can you tell us if anyone from the hospital staff knew who you were?
Well, when it happened, when it happened, I mean, this to give you a little backstory on it. I had been suffering with chest pains for quite some time, but I had always ignored it and said, I'm fine, go, 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 go. And an American tour that we did 30 shows in a row. There was no days off, 30 nights, bang, 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 bang. Every single night on that tour, when I went on stage, I was in agony every single night. And then we went to Japan, Thailand, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, and then onto Europe, which was a 7-week tour. And again, I was getting these pains. And then when we came home, I did a little work in the garden. And then I took Saturday and Sunday to rest. And on Monday, boom, there it was. We were going into Tamar. We were driving into Tamar. And I had just had a Skype call with our manager, John Zazula, and Tony was there as well. And I said, guys, I've got to go and get some medication. I don't feel too good. So I went down, and I was in the village of Santa Cita, at the pharmacy where it happened. And the ambulance was called. And there's so many weird things happened on that day. And when I spoke to my wife about it, which she was there, and everything I told her, she said that didn't happen. It didn't happen. So I was rushed. Anyway, when they got me back, I was clinically dead for just over 5 minutes. When I came round, I had a sharp pain in my side, and there was blood, and I was really cold. And the weird thing was, when I was lying in the ambulance, I looked down, and I seen below my stomach what looked like a vortex, which was just doing this. It was just spinning and spinning and spinning, and then it got smaller and smaller, and just boom, it just vanished. I can't explain that. I don't know what the hell that was. I felt like electricity all around my body. Now, whether or not that was because, boom, I had been shocked, I don't know. The blood on my side was where they had put the adrenaline straight into my heart. I was taken to Leiria, into cardiac intensive care, into the theatre. And they tried to put a stent in through my wrist, but that failed. They couldn't do it. So I was kept in there. I was then moved to a branch, but on the day I was moved to a branch, I had a second heart attack, which they got under control.
On the same
I was then, no, this was a few days later. Okay. They decided to move me to a branch, so I was closer to my wife, really. I started to have a second heart attack. They got it under control. They got me to a branch. I was there for around about a week. And one of the male nurses who was there, he spoke really good English, so I was talking to him, and then he found out I was in the band and this and that. He played guitar, so he brought a guitar in for me so I could play. And then I was transferred to Lisbon, where I had the double bypass. And there was a young nurse in that cardiac center called Sophia, and she was an absolute angel. And she came into the room and said, I mean, I looked like shit. I looked terrible. I was still really ill. This was before the operation. And she said, do you mind if I take a photograph? Because it was like, because my father is a huge Venom fan. So, yeah, but I mean, the nursing staff, the doctors, I don't know what to say. All I can say is thank you. They were incredible, absolutely incredible. And I mean, so even now, there's good days, there's bad days. I think because of what happened, because of dying, it's left a huge mental scar. And there isn't
5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes.
This is now over 2 years ago, but every day, and I'm not lying, every single day, there's a point where my subconscious takes me straight back into the back of that ambulance. I relive it. I constantly relive it. And it is, I suppose it's some kind of stress syndrome. But what it did, something definitely happened in those 5 minutes, because I really don't feel the same person. I have no tolerance now for anything that doesn't, anything that doesn't fit in with what I want to do, or I can't explain it. And the other thing was, it really just secured. I find this difficult to say, but there was no conversations with God. There was no conversations with the devil. There was no heaven. There was no hell. There was no pearly gates. There was nothing. That was it. It was absolute blackness. This was my experience.
And here you are again.
Yeah,
Man, you are a true warrior. I can say that.
I don't know about that.
Warriors of black metal.
My father had 2 heart attacks. One, the first and the second had an interval of some minutes, 2 in a row. And he got a surgery just like you. He did a bypass. And he's still here fighting. And here you are as well. I believe that makes your subconscious speak for yourself, to remember you every day, that you have to be grateful, to be alive, and to put on the side everything that you don't like. We don't need a heart attack to do that, But when something that hard happens, it's my belief that it's like that. You just, hey, I don't give a shit for that. I won't get mad because of a subject. I really don't care. And here we care of metal, and we will speak of metal. And I hope that after this episode that you had 2 years ago, you will be stronger and stronger in the future. Although we are getting old and our bodies will start failure, but I'm sure that also we'll get wiser, and that makes us choose the better stuff for us, And I am sure that you are more experienced than me, and you already know that, Steve, that stuff, that shit. And I really hope that you and your team will give us a record soon, because we want to ask you about music now. But first, before that, I will say George and Ivan to ask you something, because I am sure that George and Ivan have a lot of stuff to ask you.
Yeah.
And if they speak in Portuguese, you already know what I will do. But let's go, Jorge, Ivan.
Hi, Jeff. I
Hello.
consider you a great riff maker.
Thank
What is the best riff you invented?
Oh, wow.
Great question.
God, wow. Do you know what it
Great
is?
question.
Yeah, it's a very good. It's a very hard question. Very hard question. I mean,
Trap.
do you know? It's so difficult to answer that question because, you know, we came from that period where it was all around the new wave of British heavy metal, and you know, we never really felt a part of that. We always tried to alienate ourselves from it. It was just us saying that we wanted to be different. You know, it was, as I've said, it was youthful arrogance, if you like. But one thing about Venom that I know is that from the new wave of British heavy metal, there's a lot of the sort of older bands. Now, I'm not including Iron Maiden or any of the acts who have went on to be hugely successful, but a lot of the other bands in that genre, and I'm not going to name them because I love a lot of those bands. But a lot of those bands have got one really famous song. You know what I mean? And I went to see one of these particular bands in Italy because we were there as Empire of Evil, and we were going to go back as Venom Inc. And this particular night at the venue we were going to play as Venom Inc., this band was on. They got a great reception, the place was packed, but then they played that one song and the place went crazy. Venom, for some strange reason, we have a lot of those songs. We have black metal, Witch Now, Countess Bathory, Die Hard, Welcome to Hell, Don't Burn the Witch, Schizo, In League with Satan, Live Like an Angel, Die Like a Devil. The list goes on. For whatever reason, I don't know, but you know, to be on stage in Beijing in China and have an audience singing the chorus of Countess Bathory is incredible. You know, it's absolutely amazing. And you know, to walk on stage all over this planet, all over the world, and there's very few places that we haven't been now. It's an absolute privilege to walk on stage and present music that you have written to an audience who are waiting to hear that song. And I have honestly seen grown men my age in the audience crying when we've played one of the old songs. But I completely understand, because when Judas Priest reunited with Rob Halford, that very first show that they played in Newcastle at the arena, I was there. And I hadn't seen that lineup of Priest for so long. And what happened was KK Downing's guitar tech walked on stage with his guitar just to check the monitors. The tears were rolling down my face. And that was before they played a fucking song. Right? They were still in the dressing room. They hadn't even appeared. It was just the sight of that man's guitar. Now, as I've been doing these Facebook videos, you know, when I've been playing a song and, you know, twice a week, something like that, we've been doing some of the old stuff. It's sort of made me explore my guitar playing as well. And, you know, in a lot of those videos, I say that, you know, the old Venom material, it's all blues and rock and roll. You know, there's nothing particularly, you know, there's no, I don't know, you know how black metal evolved into using all these minor chords and all that kind of stuff. There was none of that. And that's because I had no knowledge of that whatsoever. I learned to play guitar from a book which was written by a guitarist that I did not know at the time, but who has since become one of my favorite players. That's a guy called Pat Thrall. And he did an album with Glenn Hughes in the 80s, just called Hughes and Thrall. One of the best 80s rock albums you will ever hear. And his guitar playing is absolutely universal. It's stellar. It's amazing. And he wrote a book when he was a young guy. And I learned a power chord and the first position of the pentatonic scale from that book. And then I tried to write my own songs. And the first song I ever wrote was Red Light Fever. That was the very first song that I wrote. I think that was probably closely followed by Angel Dust. Buried Alive was written before Welcome to Hell. Buried Alive and Raise the Dead were both written before Welcome to Hell. Written before Kronos joined the band. You know, there was a lot of, this is what people don't realize as well. There's a lot of the material was written before Kronos joined the band. But as
I realized
for me,
that Kronos was invited to go to the band, but he was going to play guitar, right?
Yes.
And also that he went to the vocals because the vocalist back then left the band, and then Kronos had to go. There was no bass player again with Venom, and then Kronos, being a guitar player, he had to assume the bass and guitar. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
the bass and vocals. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll just say hello to somebody who's popped up there. Guilherme Silvano. Your music was the soundtrack to my teenage years in the mid-2000s. Really cool to have you chat with a heavy culture. Cheers from Brazil. Cheers. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, the young lady who's just gone to bed there, she was my girlfriend in those early days before Kronos came to the band. And it was her friend's house that I went to one night where we all used to, I think it was a Tuesday evening or something like that. We used to go around to her best friend's house, and a bunch of guys and girls would get together and we just drink beer, eat pizza and listen to metal. And that was it. You know, her parents used to go out that night, so everybody used to go to her house, crank the tunes, and just, you know, that's what it was. It was just a get together. And this particular night that I went in, her best friend was called Michelle. And Michelle opened the door, and we went in, blah, blah, blah. And she went, "Oh, Jeff, this is my new boyfriend." So I went over and I went, "Hello, are you all right, mate?" And he was like, yeah, I'm Conrad. I went, "All right, I'm Jeff." And we just started talking. And I was saying that I had a band, and he said he played guitar. I was like, oh, so I hadn't said anything at this point. And he said, well, I play guitar. And I was thinking, well, we need a new guitarist, because the guy that I started Venom with was a guy called Dave Rutherford. And I just don't think Dave was sort of into what we were getting into, if you like. So anyway, and then Conrad said, I'm working at Impulse Studios, which was just across the road from this house we were in. Now, myself and Dave Rutherford, we had been to Impulse Studios probably the year before or 2 years before, to see about recording a demo. I mean, there was only the two of us. We didn't even have a drummer at that point, but we walked into this recording studio, but we couldn't afford it. It was far too expensive, to make a demo, but we actually went in and asked at the office. So that was my first experience of Impulse, which was Neat Records, obviously. So Conrad said, I'm working at the studio across the road. So straight away I went, oh, studio. So a lot of that had to do with me inviting him into the band, to be perfectly honest. Yes, we needed the guitarist, but I thought, wow, we might get some studio time here. What he was doing was, back in those days, you're talking, I think it was late 1979, early 1980, In England, we had what they call a youth opportunity scheme. And the government would give certain businesses an allowance of cash to employ a young person to take them off unemployment. So basically, it made the government look good by getting the unemployment figures down. Okay? So this is what Conrad Kronos was doing. And he did manage to get us some sort of downtime in the studio. And I remember when we went in, Clive Archer was singing on the early demos, but I had also asked Conrad to sing "Live Like an Angel, Die Like a Devil," because the idea was that Clive would go off stage at this point. Conrad would sing that particular song, and then Clive would come back on for Schizo. And Clive would be dressed as like a doctor with all the medical implements and all, because we always had these big theatrical ideas, all the stuff we wanted to do. So that was the idea for getting him to sing that song. And then the bass player we had just up and left. So Conrad said, well, I'll play bass. So it was like, okay, because the alternative was to advertise in the music stores. And it was just like, oh, we couldn't be bothered with that. And then Clive left, so Conrad had already sang "Live Like an Angel, Die Like a Devil," and we had demoed it as well. And there wasn't a great deal of difference between the two voices, as I'm sure you can now appreciate when you hear the new release with the Church Hall recordings on. So Conrad took over the vocals, and that's how it became the three-piece at the end of it. But, you know, like I was saying about, I know I'm getting a bit off track, but there's so many of the songs that I'm proud of. But, you know, having now been doing these Facebook things and playing and showing the structure of the songs, I now realize that I've got a formula that I write to that I didn't realize. You know, so you know, because of lockdown and quarantine, I've discovered, oh, I actually do that. It's you know, because I've got no theory training or anything like that. I'm just not interested in it, and I'm not interested in being a virtuoso guitarist either. You know, if I'm going to go into a studio for 8 hours a day, I'm going to write songs. I'm not going to sit there and practice scales against a fucking metronome for 8 hours. You know, because the thing is, the thing that people remember and the thing that moves people emotionally and physically is songs, is music. And sometimes, I don't know, maybe that guitar solo isn't necessary. And it's just the lead guitarist saying, oh, well, this is my bit, this is my turn. And then ego takes over. So it's got to be included in the song. But does it have to be there? I go by the rule of my favorite guitarist of all time, and that's Gary Moore. And he once said in an interview that the guitar solo in a song should be part of the song. It should take the song to another level. It has to then, you know what the guitar solo has to do? It has to replace the vocals for a few bars. So it's got to be interesting. And I don't believe that it should just be a texture done at 1,000,000 miles an hour with a few fucking dive bombs in and all that. That's just not my style. It's not me. I like to construct my stuff and as best as I can.
As George said, you are a riff master, and riffs don't come by practicing. They come from, you know, what your mind can do.
I'll tell you where they come from. They come from there and there. That's where the fucking riffs come from. You know, if you do too much of that, sometimes they don't happen. And I've said this before. I used to do a thing back in England called Rock School for kids. And it was run by a friend of mine, and I was the guitar tutor. And we would go into these sort of not very wealthy areas, you know, and we would take all the instruments with us. We had all the stuff and all that. And the kids would do like 3 months learning and being in a band and things. And then they would get a gig at the local O2 Academy with all the friends and families and stuff. And You know, I used to say to the kids, you know, when I used to, and I mean, some of the players, I mean, I can remember one night walking in to set the stuff up, and there was this little guy sitting there. He was about 11 or 12, ripping the shit out of the eruption. You know, all the I was like, fucking hell. But I always used to say to them, you know, there was an example I used to give. There was myself and my wife were watching TV late one night, and you know, when there's nothing left to watch and you start channel hopping and you're pressing the button, all of a sudden there was, I think it was Rock in Rio, and it was AC/DC. So I think there was probably about 250,000 people there. Angus Young walked to the front of the stage and played 3 chords, which was the opening to Highway to Hell, right? And 250,000 people went fucking crazy, right? There wasn't a sweeping arpeggio in that song at all, and those people went mental. You know, I've always said this as well. One of my favorite bands of all time has got to be Kiss. Okay, my favorite band of all time is obviously Priest, but in Kiss, would you consider Paul Stanley to be a virtuoso guitarist in the manner of an Yngwie Malmsteen? You wouldn't, right? Paul Stanley is a good rhythm player, okay? He's not a virtuoso. That man has written some of the greatest rock anthems that this world will ever hear, right? The Beatles, they weren't fucking virtuoso musicians, right? They, you know, there's photographs of them at Abbey Road, all of them standing around one mic recording. And some of the greatest music. I'm not particularly a fan, but you know, you sometimes you'll find out, not all of the time, but sometimes you'll find that some of the greatest songs ever have been written by people who aren't particularly amazing musicians, you know, but they just do something that touches human spirit and makes the human body move, you know. So that was always my advice is, you know, if you want to be a musician and you want to have a career in this, I think to practice the craft of songwriting, because, and don't get me wrong, there are some incredible guitarists out there. There are some people I watch and go, I could never do that if I had 10 lifetimes. You know, there are some amazing technicians out there. They are absolutely unbelievable. Even on YouTube, you see some kid sitting in his bedroom and you go, fucking hell, you're incredible. There's a friend of mine that I knew a long, long time ago who was a demonstrator for a guitar company, right? He could rip the shit out of that fretboard, right? Malmsteen, Vai, Satriani, everything. I mean, this guy's incredible, right? This guitar company, I'm not going to name them, but this guitar company had a new model, and he made a video to demonstrate the model, right? And I mean, that guy was giving this guitar some abuse. It was, you were watching this just going, Jesus Christ, it was unbelievable, right? And then at the bottom of the video, there was a little message came along the bottom, and it said, can also be used to play a song. And I just sat there like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know,
a great story.
But it's true. You know, it's all about fucking songs. And yes, I know there are guitar heroes. I've sat and watched Steve Vai on YouTube and just sat there going, my God, what are you doing? He's unbelievable, unbelievable. But I still know more Kiss songs than I know Vai songs.
Jeff, I'll take this chance to ask you one thing that is actually dividing people. Talking about the latest years, that everyone starts, you know, having labels to bands. This is black metal, this is heavy metal, British old school heavy metal, or the new wave of whatever, you know. I usually defend my Maiden, saying that Venom, for me, is black metal. Like, the first black metal bands ever, for me, are Venom, Bathory, and a few other names. But what they call the first wave, Venom is for sure there, for me.
Celtic Frost?
Celtic Frost, but I would like to know, Jeff, what do you think about this? And I've heard that you said that it's just metal. Fuck, it's metal.
Yeah.
But if we had to label it, for you, what is Venom or Venom Inc?
I think personally, right now, I think Venom Inc, especially with the new album, this new album that we're right in the middle of doing now, we're a fucking heavy metal band. It's as simple as that, right? There is no, in my mind, there is absolutely no dispute. You can sit any of your black metal people in front of me right now, and there is no dispute whatsoever that Venom were the original black metal band. Totally, right?
For instance, Luis Neto down there is saying that Merciful Fate is considered black metal. For me, for instance, it isn't black metal. For me, it isn't. This is an opinion, because when I listen to black metal, I feel it's like black metal. The way the sound goes, the lyrics, the feeling of the band. And for me, Merciful Fate, for instance, didn't have that feeling.
No.
But people say now that they are black metal.
I think with Merciful Fate, it's the whole thing because of King Diamond, his persona, the stage set, all that kind of stuff. But if you listen to the music, then no. I think that they are just a damn good heavy metal band, right?
Yeah.
And they've got all of this around them, and they've got that persona and all that kind of stuff. But as a pure black metal band, no. Even Venom in the early days, right? If anybody wants to dispute it, it's like, we had a song called Black Metal. We had an album called Black Metal. So, and we had a singer in 1979 who wore corpse paint, right? And the thing is, we did that. We said we are black metal to alienate us from what was going on at the time. And I remember that we were doing an interview, and there was a copy of Kerrang magazine on a coffee table or something. And on the front cover was Bon Jovi. And we looked at that magazine and we said, this is what you consider to be heavy metal. Now, we have got nothing to do with that. Don't feel a part of Bon Jovi, fucking Oreo Speedwagon, Foreigner, Journey, all that squeaky clean fucking love you baby fucking shit.
George is laughing so much.
Yeah, I mean all that squeaky clean AOR love you baby shit has got its place. And those bands, it's like everybody disses Nickelback. Fuck me, Nickelback has sold millions of fucking records, right? Millions, right? So somebody likes them somewhere along the line. I'm sure Chad Groger doesn't go out and buy a million fucking Nickelback albums. But what I'm saying is, when we said, the journalist turned around to us and said, "Oh, so what are you?" Because at that point, the journalists really had to put everybody in a box. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that, right? So we went, we're black metal. Right, but if you look at the albums, it says power metal, speed metal, this metal, that. We coined all those phrases on the back of a fucking album. We had power metal publishing. Then there's power metal bands. Then there's black metal bands. Then there was speed metal bands. It was like, we didn't mean that. And then all of a sudden, every band that comes out is a new genre. Fuck off. You're a fucking metal band, for fuck's sake. I've said for years now, I think we're to blame for all that. Oh, we're death metal, this metal, that metal, fucking. And then it comes out, somebody going, we are, what was it, math metal? Math? metal. It's like, so you mean like progressive metal? So you're never going to be as good as Rush. So shut the fuck up and play what you're playing. It's like fucking hell, you know. But you know, on the side of the black metal thing, what I am proud of, is that black metal still exists today, right? It exists in a radically different form, way different from what we started, right? But that's evolution. Now, what happened to the dinosaurs? They became extinct. Why? Because they didn't evolve. Black metal evolved. Black metal basically did what Venom did. Venom took their heroes, Motorhead, Judas Priest, Kiss, Black Sabbath. We want to be more evil than Sabbath. We want to wear more leather and studs than Priest. We want a bigger stage show than Kiss. And we want to be dirtier, faster, and louder than Motorhead. We always said if you put those four bands and every other heavy metal cliche in the book into a big pot, stir it up and pour it out on the table, it's going to spell Venom. That's what we wanted. We wanted to be the band that we wanted to see on stage, you know? So what's happened is Venom comes out and does what Venom does. We stick the pentagram in everybody's faces. We go Satan this, hell that, Satan that, devil this, whatever, right? And then we have an album called Black Metal, which we actually say we are a black metal band. We're not heavy metal, we're black metal. We were the first ones to say that. Like it or not, that's historical fact. And then everybody after us went, if they can do it, we can do it. And that's exactly what we did to our peers and our predecessors. We looked at them and went, if they can do that, we can.
What do you think of this actual wave of black metal bands?
Do you know what it is? I have to be brutally honest and say that I don't listen to it. I'm still old school. I'm still steeped in Judas Priest and Kiss and, you know, Frank Marino. You know, I'll put Frank Marino on before I'll put anything else on. You know, black metal bands. I mean, I do like Dimmu Borgir. I have to admit that. I do like them. There's a few things that I've heard where I think, that's good. I mean, I like what I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I've only really just explored what Behemoth are doing, you know, Nurgle. And that only came around because I was doing the Facebook things again. And then Nurgle had commented about, like, oh, please play Satanicist. So I played Satanicist. And in the video, I pointed to the camera and said, I think somebody should sing this. And then next thing I know, I get a message from Nurgle. So we collaborate and we do Satanicist just for everybody to enjoy. Because of that, I had heard some stuff. But because of that association, I then thought, right, I'm going to explore what these guys are doing. And I have to admit, there's some of the stuff that I really do like, that what they're doing, you know. But, you know, I'm still, oh, God. Do you know what it is? I once said, and I think it's still pretty true, that my metal world begins with the word Judas and ends with the word priest. And, you know, I mean, I'm not... Oh God, I hate to say this. I'm not entirely happy with the way Priest are going now. You know, it's like Richie Faulkner's an incredible guitarist. I mean, I've seen him live with Priest because a friend already bought me tickets, and then it was announced that KK had left. Because KK Downing was the man who started all this for me. You know, that night in 1979 at Newcastle City Hall. When I seen him walk on stage, I just looked and went, wow, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do, you know. So I went and bleached the hair and bought a flying V, and, you know, I thought I was KK Downing for a while. I mean, I'm in touch with the guy.
Do you guys know each other?
Yes, we do now, yeah. I was introduced to him I haven't actually still met him, but we've texted each other, we've spoken on the phone. And
he give you any idea of what are his thoughts on, with Venom stuff and the influence you gave around the world? Do you have any idea of
he's
what he
mentioned
thinks?
he's sort of since mentioned it in interview. There was a great interview we did. I can't remember who was with now, but he did send me a message when I had the heart attack. And the message was, "What the fucking hell are you doing? Get your stage clothes on and your fucking guitar. There's gigs to do, you know." No, he said in some interview, that it's good to see that I'm out there, And again, he's old school, He's 10 or 11 years older than me, So he said, about the influence Venom have had and all this kind of stuff. So it's strange to know the amount of bands from before us who were aware of Venom as well. I remember reading an interview, I think it was a fanzine interview in the 80s with Gene Simmons, and they mentioned Venom, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of those guys," And our first show in America, I mean, I've met a lot of people who were said I was at that show, like people from Anthrax, and apparently somebody from Dunn Mantas was there. It's like, it's unbelievable. And Rob Flynn told me he was at the San Francisco Kabuki Theatre show. And that was 1985, I think. Yeah. So
this brings me to the question: where haven't you played yet?
Where haven't we played?
Yeah.
Mars, Neptune. Where haven't we played?
I'm sure you haven't played into Mare. Starting
no. We played up at we played in Lisbon, and we played at Barcelos. At it was a festival up there a few years ago. We played at, but I think not many countries that I can't think of any, to be perfectly honest, that you embrace.
I believe that metal, you haven't played in North Korea.
No, not yet. No. But with the aid of green screen, I think we will. Yeah.
Let's talk about communist countries and these dictatorships. Maybe they won't let you play. I believe that.
I don't think so.
In Philippines, they are saying that some bands are banned from getting inside the country. You aren't on that blacklist, right?
I don't know. There was a list a few years ago, and I'm sure we were on it. But the first time we went to China, we had to submit all of our lyrics, and we thought, as soon as they see the lyrics, that's it, it's game over, they're going to go, "Nope, you're not coming." But everything was fine. Just that any lyrics which disparage the governing authorities or anything like that, or if you say anything against the Chinese community, or it's that kind of stuff, that anything which is political, basically, they don't want that. But all the lyrics that we sent over, it was absolutely fine. So
their God is different. Their God is different from ours, at least these parts of Europe and the world. And I'm sure that if you say that you are, imagine that Satan will arrive, for them is like, who's that guy?
Probably
bullshit.
Whatever.
They invented a god and a bad god, a good one and a bad one. This takes me to a very important question, that you said something that you were writing some new stuff, because there's only one LP, one album from Venom Inc, and I believe that everyone is expecting something, mostly because of after what happened to you, with you, and this takes me to the question of the new stuff you are writing, and also if you believe that having Abaddon off the band, if this will, you know, it will do something with the writing of the new songs, for instance.
Right. Well, we're going to approach those two, and I'll go very in depth if you want. With the new stuff, literally tonight, before I spoke to you guys, I was in my studio, and I've just put together all the drums and guitar stems that I'm going to be sending to Tony in London so he can put his bass down. And for this new album, there are 25 songs written. So it's written. There's still some lyrics to be wrote yet, and we're still wondering if Tony can get across to my studio vocals as well. But we usually, you know, we write a lot of the lyrics in the studio together. So yeah, there's 25 songs, and I think actually what we're going to do is once these songs are all mixed, mastered, produced, everything's ready, I think my idea is to send all 25 songs to Nuclear Blast, let them pick the album from there. And whatever's left over will be used as bonus tracks, or maybe a second album put out, you know, soon after. I don't know at the moment. But in answer to your question about Abaddon, Abaddon doesn't even appear on Ave. He's not on there. Those drums that you hear on Ave are the original drums which I programmed for the demos. We did put Abaddon into a studio, and again, I know there's going to be a lot of people who don't want to hear this kind of stuff, but you know, I've said, and especially since what happened, you know, I've got no reason not to tell the truth, and this is the absolute truth. Put Abaddon into a studio in Newcastle, and to be perfectly honest, what he sent to me as drum files, what he recorded, was terrible, and it was unusable. That album, Ave, would not have turned out like it did if we had used his drums, and we were right up against it at the 11th hour. So there had to be a decision made. I was producing the album, I was mixing it. I spoke to John Zazula. I spoke to my colleague Kalle Knecht, his job was going to be edit the drums in Germany before he then came to Portugal with all the edits and everything. And we had Skype conversations. The first night that Abaddon was in the studio, he sent the first files through to me, and I listened to them. I honestly couldn't recognize the song, and that is the truth. Kalle was receiving the files at the same time, and shortly after I had listened to it, my Skype rang, and it was Kalle on the other end, and his first words were, "What the fuck is this?" You know, and the album itself was far too important, you know, to let anyone's ego or anything interfere with what was going to be the eventual end product, which had to go to Nuclear Blast, which, as we all know, is probably the biggest, you know, sort of independent, if you like, metal label in the world. You know, and we were delivering our album to them, and we were trying to deliver a Venom album to them as well, which I think we did eventually. And we had even spoke to Nuclear Blast about the situation and said, you know, this is the situation. What do we do? John Zazula was in the same position, you know. So the decision was made. So the drums were then edited even better, you know, with the time that we had, because we had a very, very tight deadline. And then live was a different matter altogether. We went to America, and the tour was called the Bloodstained Earth Tour. and we had 2 days rehearsal in Philadelphia before we played the first show, which was actually in Philadelphia as well. And the rehearsals were terrible, absolutely terrible. Playing the show in Philadelphia, we were looking out of the tour bus and we seen a lot of people on the street, and then someone from the venue came onto the bus and we said, wow, hope all those people are going to our show. And we were just laughing about it, and this guy said, those are the people who can't get in, the place is packed, we're going to have to open the side doors so these people can watch the show from the street. So that show was oversold. There was a lot of people there. It was just a club show. It wasn't an arena or anything like that, but it was the first show of the tour. We get to the track Bloodstained. Tony gives it this big introduction and everything. And Abaddon went to start the track, fucked it up. So we stopped, he tried again, fucked it up again. And then he shouted at me, just play something different. Play something else. This was in front of an oversold audience on the first night of an American tour to promote the new album by Venom Inc. Now, the other thing is that really, really annoys me is myself and Tony with Empire of Evil. We basically did all the fucking groundwork possible for this Venom Inc. thing. Right? It was never meant to be Venom Inc. It was never meant to go that way. It happened by pure chance, and I actually refused to do it. It was Tony that convinced me to do the Keep It True festival with Abaddon. I refused. I said, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that. Abaddon had not done anything of any musical consequence for 17 years. And then he was given the opportunity to walk in and play drums in front of a festival crowd, zero to fucking hero, with no groundwork. We had just come back from Russia. That Keep It True festival, I can't remember being on stage. I was so ill. I got some horrible virus which lasted 7 weeks in Russia. It was awful. And I nearly cancelled that Keep It True appearance. If it had just been Empire, I would have rang Tony and said, Tony, I can't do it. But because it was the Venom Inc. thing, and there was a lot of people out wanting to see it, I was like, fuck. So I got there. I can't remember being on stage. I've heard the audio of that show, and it is fucking terrible. And my playing is terrible because I didn't know what fucking planet I was on. I cannot remember the show at all. I was so ill. But after that, then everybody was like, wow, Venom Inc, Venom Inc, Venom Inc, Venom Inc. It wasn't even supposed to be called Venom Inc. It was going to be called Iron and Steel. And then we got all this opportunity, and I was just waiting for the fuck-ups to happen. And I was like, this is not going to work. This is not going to last. Because there's no work ethic on certain individuals' parts. And basically that's what happened. And at the end of the day, it was like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. We're putting so much work and so much effort into this. And you've got someone who can't even be bothered to learn the fucking songs properly. And even songs that we had played for 30 years, there was no consistency. It was like, and I mean, I've spoke to people who said, there was people who said, oh, well, I seen Venom Inc. and they were great. Yeah, you must have hit a good night. Because there was a lot of nights on those tours, and we played a lot of shows. We must have played close to 500 shows. And there was a lot of those nights I would come off stage and get on the tour bus and just sit there going, fucking hell. It was, and it was just like, get off stage, where's my bottle of Jack Daniels? And I would just sit there and look at it and go, I can't do this anymore. I really can't, And that's not me trying to be fucking Richie Blackmore or anything like that. It's just wanting to be the best we possibly can. But then it's like having a car that's got 4 wheels, but one of the wheels is going that way.
Yeah.
You know, that car's going nowhere. You know, unless everybody's in the same direction with the same work ethic, wanting to do the same things and doing their part. It's like, nah, nothing.
And
You know,
what
but
do you
you know,
feel-
I'll say
what-
this much: the guy is such a fucking narcissist. He'll blame everything on me, or he'll blame everything on Tony. He'll not take responsibility for fuck all. Do an interview with him and find out. But I tell you what, when you do an interview, invite me in, and I'll fucking question him for you. Because I've had enough of being quiet.
And about this, I will. If we invite him for an interview, I will call you up.
Yeah, I'll fucking nail
I have
him.
to ask you about this team, the Venom Inc team, the actual team. What are your feelings on this new 25 songs? You know, talking about the like you said, the sound that comes from, you know, from your heart and also your groin. Do you believe that everyone's groins are going to be, you know, like, whoa, this is, you know, the stuff that we used to listen to, and the feeling of the you know, the back then Venom, although there's a difference, you know. What are your thoughts on these new 25 songs?
Right, I'll ask, before I answer that, I'll ask you guys, right? What did you feel when you heard the songs of Ave?
Well, as I told you when I started talking with you, I was astonished, and especially when I went to see a live concert on YouTube, I was like, oh man, this thing is brilliant, because, you know, even playing with 3 guys, you know, the feeling was almost the same, and Demolition is wonderful with the bass and the voice. I was like, oh man, this is Venom. This is truly Venom.
Yeah.
And
So
Ave is an
great
album that brings us the feeling of Venom. I believe that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are
Well,
the mentor.
Well, I would say that this new album will give you exactly the same, if not more. Definitely. I think it's you know, it's difficult. It is really difficult when you've had, particularly two albums like Welcome to Hell and Black Metal, which are the ones people, you know, usually talk about. You know, I know, you know, there's a lot of people who say Satan is their favorite or Possessed is their favorite. I've always said that those 2 albums for me, I've got mixed feelings about them. My pride and joys are Welcome to Hell and Black Metal, and Primeval is another one, and Resurrection. So those albums, that's, you know, that's where my heart and soul lies, you know, with those 2 early albums. But what you've got to remember is with Welcome to Hell was essentially a set of demos. You know, we walked into that studio and we were given 3 days to record the fucking album, and that was it. So it was our sort of second set of demos, if you like, after the first single. You see, someone's just said here, Lewis Neto. Hi, Lewis. On Ave, people was expecting new Primeval, but Ave is different. It's an update, an actual sound. And I totally agree with that. I totally agree.
Luis
now-
Neto, bastard.
Yeah.
We know each other.
Yeah? Oh, good.
Yeah, Luis Neto.
There's another one. It's fucking good.
We are
Simple as
bastards.
that. Excellent. But on Welcome to Hell, as I've already said, you know, those songs were my first attempts at writing songs. So there's a naive quality to those songs. There's a simplicity to them. And sometimes, you know, when you think, you know, a song like Witching Hour, You know, there's nothing to that song. You know, there's absolutely nothing to it. There's fucking what? A riff and a rundown. That's it. Let's have a think. Fucking Poison. Poison is just rock and roll. You know, it's as simple as that. Angel Dust is just rock and roll. You know. Now, take a song like 1,000 Days in Sodom. 1,000 Days in Sodom was a sort of a big song for me. It was like, you know, that was my first attempt at doing something which was big and grand, you know. My next attempt was 7 Gates of Hell. So 7 Gates of Hell became 1,000 Days in Sodom's big brother. And 7 Gates of Hell, I wrote thinking of Ronnie James Dio.
Oh,
Yeah, that was what was in my head when I wrote 7 Gates of Hell. I could hear Ronnie singing those lyrics, in a dream or a nightmare, where love gives way to hate. All that stuff which was backwards and forwards and contradicting itself, you know? So, you know, steal the wings of the Hydra, take the sword from the sacred shrine, you know, all that. It's all Dio stuff, you know? It's all the kind of stuff, you know, that he would sing. And then Nightmare was another one where I had the music, and then Kronos came in with those lyrics, you know, By the Shores of the Asian Sea, Full Scream Out Destiny. Great lyrics. And they were used straight away for Nightmare. And then fast forward again to, you know, let's have a think, you know, even Empire of Evil. Then when we wrote The Eighth Gate, you know, that was another step. And for me, it's the same as Judas Priest, Exciter. And then fast forward a few years, you've got Painkiller. That's Exciter's big brother, you know? And in between that, you know, you've got Screaming for Vengeance and all that kind of stuff, you know? Free Wheel Burning is another one. All similar things. But on the first album, like I say, there's that naive quality of songwriting. And as you progress in your years and your experience, it's difficult to get back to that naivety, to get back to that simplicity. Because now, if I came up with a riff like Witching Hour, I would throw it in the bin, you know? Because I've got 40 years experience. I would sit there and go, oh, fucking hell, that's shit, you know, and throw it away. But back then, that was all I had. And that was a great riff. That was a great song. And I can remember we used to rehearse at Newcastle Quayside, like the dockside. And we used to rehearse in this horrible rat-infested fucking little building. And I remember going in one Sunday morning, I'll carry my guitar and my amplifier in, set everything up, and I went, I've got a new song. It's called Witching Hour. So, you know, we jammed through the song. You know, I still remember that on a Sunday morning, going in, doing that. So it's interesting to hear people say that they consider Ave to be a good Venom album, which is great. It's a Venom album, and that really meant a lot to me when people said, yep, this is a Venom album. Yeah, great. It's got all the elements of, because I wrote all the music for it, it's got all the elements of my playing in it. Right, now this time around, for the new album, Tony's wrote quite a few songs, you know, so, you know, there's stuff that, there's one song in particular, I actually called him and went, fucking hell, that's me, you know, because he's wrote in my style so much, it's great, you know. He went, yeah, I was writing that thinking of the way you play, you know, and I was like, oh, that's perfect, you know. And
can you give us a name? Can you give us a name? Can you give us a name of the new album, a song? Can you give us anything?
I'll give you one. Let's have a think. There's one that I've wrote which I love, and it's got a beautiful, huge anthem at the end. The song is called Tyrant, and it's just all about world oppression and basically the tyrants who rule the planet and stuff, the people who are actually fucking it up for the decent people. But at the end of it, it moves into this. I wanted to write. I just had this idea, and I wanted to write an anthem for the world. And when I write songs, I always think, okay, if we play this song live, where's the audience's part? Where do they sing? Where do they put their hands in the air? Where do they just something simple like aye, all that stuff? Where do they do that, you know? So as much as I don't necessarily formulate it that way, I like to think that if there's an opportunity, where's the audience going to participate? And at the end of this song, you know, if we get to play this song at some huge festival, I would love to see all hands in the air, but hands joined in the air, you know, because, you know, you go to a festival and there's so many nationalities there, you know, and you can stand in the audience next to a person that you can't communicate with because of a language barrier. But when your favorite song comes on, you both put your arms around each other and you sing the song together. And even though you can't even say hello to each other, you know, music is the last universal language. And please, fucking don't lose it. You know, and it's the only thing that brings people actually together. You know, it doesn't divide them, and it shouldn't divide them. That's why, you know, you're going on about the genres. Oh, what kind of metal do you like? What kind of metal do you like? What the fuck are you talking about? It's metal, 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 right? Get it in there, fucking metal, black metal, death metal, whatever, math metal, speed metal, up your arse metal, doesn't fucking matter. It's heavy fucking metal at the end of the day.
Perfect.
And, you know, and everybody's going out there, and I respect any band who's going out there, who's got a guitar slung around their neck and a drummer behind them, and they're doing it, you know, and that's the way to do it. Just get out there and fucking do it. But like I say, with the songs, you know, so on this new one, there's a lot of stuff that you'll go, yeah, that's fucking Mantas, that's fucking Venom stuff, you know, and there's a lot of stuff that you'll go, ooh, wow, yeah. So there's some instantly recognizable, you know, wow, that's Venom, you know, and there's some other stuff where you would go.
When do you believe it will be released?
Oh, I mean, if it wasn't, you know, if this pandemic hadn't happened, if this whole COVID thing hadn't happened, it would probably be ready for release now. I've seen the first draft of an idea for a cover that Tony's put forward. And like I say, there's 25 songs there. But I think
double LP.
Well, you know what it is? We actually thought about that, but Nuclear Blast were a bit like, oh no, don't give it all away at once. You know, let's keep a little back. You know. So
Damn sellers.
No, but I think I would like to just present all those songs to Nuclear Blast and say, okay, guys, you choose the album. What do you consider to be a good Venom Inc. album? There you go. Choice is yours. You choose them out of that, you know. And if we totally disagree with their choice, we'll go, nah, fuck that. We'll put something else out. But interestingly enough, when we did Ave, when I had finished the mixing, the mastering, and everything like that, and it was ready to go, we had to decide on a running order, you know, which song was first, second, third, fourth, right? So I did what I usually do. I made a list of songs. I made a list of their BPMs, how fast, you know, the key of the song. Is it in E? Is it in A or whatever, you know? So I did all that methodically. And I had a few lists that I was looking at going, oh, that follows that good, that's that good. And I eventually settled on one. And I typed it into an email and I pressed send to Tony. And this is the truth, no lie. As I pressed send to send it to Tony, my email pinged with an email from Tony that said running order. I opened his, and obviously in London, he opened mine exactly the same. Exactly the same running order. So it was decided. That was it, you know. So, but running orders are very important for an album, because if you can think of an album now that you haven't heard, which is a favorite album of yours, but maybe you haven't heard for a long time, I would guarantee that if you put that album on now, you would know exactly what song comes after that one, what comes after that one, what comes after that one. It's just stuck there, and that's a good running order. And running orders are very important. You know, you've got to have that. I believe, you know, being relentless through an album is good, but sometimes it tires the audience out. It will tire the listener out. So that's why, you know, I like to open up and then go boom, 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 and then just bring it down. That's why Dein Fleisch came in, you know. And a lot of people said at first when Dein Fleisch came out, it was like, wow, what's this? That's different, you know. They weren't expecting that. If we had put Metal We Bleed out straight away, everybody would have went, oh, yep, there's the Venom stuff. But because it was Dein Fleisch, it made people think. But when you take Dein Fleisch and you put it in amongst the rest of the songs of RBA, it fits perfect. And Dein Fleisch was written 3 years before we recorded RBA. So
if you look at an album, in fact, at an album, at anything in nature, I believe that all comes in waves. You know, everything goes up and down, and has an order, a natural order.
Yeah.
And I truly believe on what you said about thinking an album, thinking of what comes first, what follows, and how to finish it. And this shows how a true master you are. You know, when thinking about music, you are, Jeff. Don't be humble with that, because you truly are a master of music. And as a, you know, as a little boy listening to Venom, it was like, oh my fucking god, these guys are fucking insane. That was what I believed in, you know. And talking to you now, and see how calm you are, how peaceful you are with life, it makes me, you know, believe that I have the best convictions ever. You know, I always look at these guys that I usually, you know, love when I was a young boy, and I look at them now and they are great. And this reminds me that we are, you know, united with music and with thoughts, you know, and knowing that you are here in Portugal made me, whoa, in Portugal. And I said, I would really like to you know, to speak with Mantas. The word, the only name I knew to call you, and I hope that we can do that in the future. But I have one last question for you, Jeff. Do you gather your band for rehearsals in Portugal?
No. Venom Inc. Venom Inc. Since we came together in 2015, we have rehearsed as a band only with Jeremy, and only twice. We never rehearse. Never rehearse. So every tour that we do, we go out there, and our rehearsal is the first time we set foot on stage for sound checks. If there's any songs that we feel that we need to run through, we'll run through them in the hotel, we'll run through them at a sound check. We've decided to do a song on the night and said, okay, let's have a listen to it, let's go for it. Yeah, that sounds good. Boom, we do it. And that's the joy of having Jeremy as the drummer as well. because we know that we can turn up, and I know Tony will learn his parts. Everybody knows that I'll be prepared, and we know that Jeremy is prepared. So we sit down, we go, okay, this is the set list, this is the songs, bang, that's it, it's done. But it was when we came back from Australia. We had, I think we had 2 days rehearsal with Jeremy before we set off on the European tour. And those 2 days rehearsal were absolutely brilliant. To be perfectly honest, we didn't even need those 2 days. We could have went through, run through the songs. That was it, done. Totally confident, no issues whatsoever.
I'm going to use one word, English word. I'm flabbergasted.
I just think, I did say at one point, when about the album Possessed, and we sort of, I believe that we rehearsed the life out of that album. There's a point where you can rehearse too much, you can get to the point where rehearsals, they just become, you walk in there, you plug in, boom, 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 that's it. And there's no energy there anymore. It can get to that stage. It's like, trying to keep that little bit of fire and that little bit of hunger there, and that little bit of, not trepidation, that's the wrong word, but a little bit, I suppose a little bit of anxiety of, is it all going to go right or whatever, And we were always known as a bit of a chaotic band, if you like. But I think with Jeremy, I honestly think that we've still got that intensity. We've got that chaotic element to it. But I just think it's...
I'm already starting to feel it.
Yeah. No, it's, I think we're in a good place at the moment. Yeah, we're in a good place. So, I mean, God knows what will happen about, touring and things like that. We don't know when that's going to officially come back. But we have done one thing, which is for the European Metal Festival Alliance, and we will be representing Bloodstock online. I believe it is the 8th of August. Yeah, so some of the European metal festivals have come together, and we pulled various bands in and stuff. So we
you play something new?
No, we're not. We're playing an old Venom song which has never been played before. Ooh. So yeah, that's we've got a few in the bag.
That's a good teaser.
Yeah. We're doing the usual standard stuff. We're doing some stuff off Ave, and then we've got this one song that we've never played.
So... Authority Satan, Chef.
20 minutes. Do you know what it is? When I do these Facebook things, there's a lot of people that have said, like, oh, play out what was said. They think, fuck yeah, 20 minutes. So who knows? We might do someday. You just don't know. You don't know. It's like, I mean, we never thought we'd be doing Dead of the Night and Lady Lust and all that kind of stuff, but we are. So yeah, there's a song in there that has never been done live. So it's going to be good.
Ivan is so quiet there because he's a guitar player himself, and I believe that he's like very shy to ask you something more technical.
Ivan, speak up. Come on, go. Ask away, ask anything.
Eu ia perguntar para ele que como ele é um cara muito comunicativo, inclusive no Venom, a gente percebia essa interação com o público. Ele nunca pensou em assumir os vocais principais em algumas músicas?
Oh, great question. Okay, so Ivan was saying something about the way you communicate, that you are very communicative, and also that you used to be very funny all the time, and he was asking if you ever thought of singing some of your music songs, Venom songs, singing yourself.
Oh, I did it once. There was a band that I had back in Newcastle called Drill, and for a short period, Anton became the drummer. Kronos' brother. And we did this little show at the local rock bar, and we did all the drill material, all the stuff that we were playing, and we had decided to do black metal. And our singer was quite a melodic singer, so I sang black metal. I think it's on YouTube somewhere. It's up there. But there is one thing that I had promised myself for years that I wanted to do, because I write so much guitar music, and it's not there's a lot of it that doesn't fit Venom, but I just love guitar music. I love blues rock, that kind of all that kind of stuff. I love fusion and instrumental stuff, and I've got a ton of it which I've recorded. So I'm going to be putting a lot of that in between doing all the Venom Inc stuff at the minute. I've got 14 or 15 of these blues rock songs. So I'm going to have a go at singing those as well. But I've got a website which is going to be going up, so there's going to be like the songs and everything there. But what I want to do is I want to support a couple of the animal sanctuaries which are around our area, because during this pandemic they usually go out and do the local craft markets and things like that to get money for food and blankets and things like that. Blankets, that's mantas in Portuguese. There you go.
Yeah.
So what I want to try and do is, like, when the website goes up, some of the music will go up there, and like some of the proceeds is going to go to the animal sanctuaries around this area, because I've got 8 cats and I've got a dog, and they're all rescues, So, and that's another one of my sort of passions, I suppose. It's just, there's the cats that I've got. I've picked them up off the street, out of the gutter, kittens or whatever. I just can't walk past them.
This is not the first time you have you have a cause. I read something that you were trying to raise some money for a cancer institute in the past.
I think that, yeah.
How does the metal community respond to that?
Oh, very well. I think the one that you're talking about there was a thing called pick collectors against cancer, and it was all guitar picks and things like that. So we agreed for the pick makers to sort of use our images and Venom Inc. and our signatures and stuff like that, and it went really, really well. They raised a lot of money. They got a lot of musicians involved, but we were very proud to be just a small part of it. But I lost my mother to cancer, and I'm sure it's a horrible disease that'll touch a lot of families. If it's not our own, it's somebody that we know. Like I say, as soon as we got approached by it, we were like, oh, absolutely, yeah. So if it was just something as small as supplying an autograph or an image for guitar picks, and it's going to a worthy cause, then yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That's great to know that the community, our community, responds well to that. And I'd like to tell you one other thing. I used to have a female dog, and she was called Venom. It's true. And it was my first family dog, as an adult. And I remember when we picked her up in something similar to those kind of rescue dogs. I was like, okay, she's dark brown. She has these dark eyes. I will call her Venom, and that was it. She lived for 15 years.
Really?
She was she was quite small, not these small dogs like this, but she was something like a boxer with a different kind of head.
All right.
And she was Venom, and I still have some photos of that dog. She was great, and I had to tell you this that I had a dog called Venom, and I would also. You have a cat called Venom? Oh no!
Let's have a look.
Hey,
George's
hey
cat.
Jeff,
Oh, look at that
black
man.
metal.
And
Vamos
I
encerrar,
really.
Miguel. Já passamos de 1h30 alugando o manto.
Já. Jeff, we really would like to, spend all night here, speaking, because I know that subjects are so many subjects that we could go along, but we won't bother you no more, at least tonight.
Don't worry. It's
And
all right.
I would like to say
If there's
something.
more, let's do it again. Dude, we can do this again sometime. I'd love to. Yeah.
But next time I'll bring beer.
Oh,
I only have water here, so
Yeah.
I felt like should have been beer time, because it's more fun. Let me
You've got
tell
none
you
left.
that I'm very happy to to meet you, and
Likewise.
as I started this interview, I would like to really meet you in person. The next time I go to Torres Novas, I'll be like, and as Luis Neto, one of the guys that wrote here, he was asking if you believe that the old people from your village know the lyrics. It was funny to think about that. Do you know anything about that?
I think, yeah, I mean, everybody in the village knows what I do, but you know the one thing that I love about it? They don't give a shit, So, I go to the cafe in the morning for, un café, agua de pedras e un torrada,
oh.
and nobody, it's like, hey Jeff, so it's great. There's a girl who was working at the cafe who was a metalhead, right? And one day I was in the cafe, and she put YouTube on the TV, and she put Ave Satanas on. And I was like, fucking no. But no, everybody knows what I do. Everybody knows what everybody's fine. Nobody bothers me.
My grandmother, when she was with us, she used to say, I like your music, but not so loud, please.
Yeah. True.
Just that. Okay, Jeff, in my name and in the name of my Portuguese people, your Portuguese fellow people, thank you so much. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado.
Also would like to thank João Carlos Silva for the questions he did, and also Jorge and Ivan for
We are very happy to have talking to you, Jeff.
Oh, it's been an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure. Totally enjoyed it, guys. Thank you so much.
I'm
Thank you.
so grateful. Okay, Jeff,
Pleasure's all mine.
apanhe-te por aí.
Heavy Culture,
Tchau.
obrigado. Muito obrigado.
pessoal.
Semana que vem
Obrigado.
conversamos com... Qual o nome do vocalista do Voivod? Meu amigo Miguel, lembra do nome?
Dennis
Belanger. Conhecido
É o
como
Dennis
Sven-
Damour. The next guest will be the Dennis Damour, right?
Damour.
From Voivod.
Voivod.
Oh,
He
Do
will
you
be
like
the next,
Voivod, Jeff?
the next
yeah.
guest. Maybe you can watch us and preach some words in Portuguese.
Yes.
Okay, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Muito
thank
obrigado.
you.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Don't forget,
Ciao.
I'll ask
Thank you.
you your friendship on Facebook.
Okay.
Yes.
Send me a private message so I know it's definitely you.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
Ciao, and
Ciao.
stay
Ciao,
heavy,
Jeff.
and muita saúde.
Muita saúde.
Boa noite.
Muito café. Muito bom, muito bom.
Muito
Muito
bom.
bom.